Hi, students, and welcome to week 5 of compressed developmental writing. Just wanted to touch base with you this week about what our objectives are and what we are looking at doing this week. We are most definitely going into the beginning processes of essay writing in this course. This week, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me just open up your class really quick. And I'm going to share my screen with you and talk to you about what we're doing. Goodness. All right, let's see here. So I'm going to share this just so you can see it. Here we have your course for compressed developmental writing. I'm going to go to content. I'm going to go to week 5. I already had it pulled up. So you will see here that your weekly assignments this week are to read the book chapters as outlined in your syllabus, read and take notes on the PowerPoints. You have the essay equation, fragments, and purpose, voice, and audience in writing. You're going to read an article on homelessness that's already posted. You'll compose a discussion board response to the article and then respond to at least one classmate. Please remember it does need to be in MLA format. That's located under the discussion board. You will also compose a paragraph on homelessness under the assignments tab. You'll complete a fragment quiz under assessments, and you'll complete a grammar practice under sentence fragments. So those will be your weekly assignments this week. Just want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that I've seen in the writing. I hope these videos are helping. And if they're not, please do reach out and let me know. One thing I did want to mention is that your grade in the class starts out at a 0%. I don't know if I told you that the first week, and it goes up and progresses as we move forward through the course. So do not freak out if your grade is very low right now, because we're still very early on in the course. We're almost at the halfway point, but not quite there. So just don't get upset if your grade is really, really low. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is sentence fragments, because this is something that I've seen quite a bit of in your in writing in general. So just going to talk about what a sentence fragment is, how to recognize them, how to correct them. So sentence fragments are groups of words that don't express a complete thought. They're only part of a sentence. A lot of people use them in conversation. I try to avoid them, but they are absolute no-no when it comes to any kind of formal or academic writing. We talk about sentence fragments in contrast to complete sentences, and a complete sentence expresses a complete thought. I've kind of gone over a little bit of this with you through the past 4 weeks, but I just want to make sure that you understand what a sentence fragment is. These are a few examples of fragments and complete sentences. So a fragment would be on the table. That's also known as a prepositional phrase, but it's not a complete thought. You have to have a subject and a verb in order for it to be a complete sentence. So my hat is on the table would be the complete sentence. Over there, again, you need a subject and a verb. The dog ran over there. And this thing, well, that's a subject, but it doesn't have a verb. So this thing is bothering me. Sentence fragments. If I walk home, that would be an introductory phrase, but it doesn't have any information as well. It needs to have a little bit more. I'll call you if I walk home. It just doesn't make any sense. Typically, when you're using a word processing program, it will let you know if it's a sentence fragment, but it doesn't always. So again, when a group of words is missing important information, it no longer expresses a complete thought. There are 4 different types of sentence fragments. You have missing subject fragments, you have missing verb fragments, you have missing a subject and a verb fragments, and then you have dependent clause fragments. So those are your 4 different types. This is an example of a sentence fragment type 1. Subjects, of course, like we talked about in the very beginning of the course, they tell what or whom the sentence is about. If the subject is missing, we are left wondering who or what performed the action. And I know it seems like I'm being repetitive in this, but it's very important. As I've graded some writing assignments, I have seen some sentence fragments. So I just want to make sure that I'm reiterating the importance of making certain you recognize a sentence fragment. If you have a sentence like ran around the tree, I don't know who ran around the tree. Or who will walk into the room, or what shot through the sky. So you have to have the subject in order for it to be a complete sentence. Sentence fragment Another one, the dog ran around the tree, the president will walk into the room, a rocket shot into the sky. It's as simple as adding a subject. Sentence fragment 2, that's where they're missing the verb. My little sister. Okay, you have a little sister, that's great. But what did your little sister do? Or what is your little sister? Annoying? I don't know. My cute little dog. Well, again, what did the cute little dog do? Or what breed is your cute little dog? So you have to have additional information in order for it to be a complete sentence. And some sentence fragments are missing both the subject and the verb. This means we don't know whom the sentence is about or what they did or who they are. So again, on the table and over there, as I mentioned earlier in the video, those are prepositional phrases and also known as sentence fragments because they don't have any other information in there. Sentence fragment 4 is a dependent clause. You have to connect it to an independent clause in order for it to be a complete thought. So you can add the independent clause to the beginning or the end of the dependent clause. So whenever I walk the dog, comma, I feel great. Or I will stay here until my little sister walks into the room. That's kind of a very authoritative sentence in a lot of ways, but it's also extremely important. And that's really about it when it comes to sentence fragments. Next week, I will go over run-on sentences as well. I'm going to stop share really quick and get back to the other PowerPoints and talk to you about them. I'm going to talk first about the essay equation. And because we are about to go into our beginning of writing an essay, so it is important that you know a little bit about it before you go into it. So I'm just going to sort of talk a little bit about what it is next week. I'll go more in depth into thesis statements, topic and claims, because your essay that you will be writing for the course will be argumentative. Don't get too freaked out too early. It's only a short essay. It's about 600 words, 2 pages. It's not too bad. But your thesis statement, the definition to remember or the formula to remember with the essay equation is a thesis equals a topic plus a claim. So your thesis statement should be a single concise sentence. An effective thesis statement has 2 parts. It has the topic and your claim. However, it is very, very important that you don't use personal pronouns when you're writing a thesis statement. So looking at this, I have this little diagram here. So you have your thesis statement, you have your introduction, your thesis statements, your body paragraphs, and your conclusion. So your introduction is the first part of an essay, and it tries to capture the reader's attention. Typically, this is the format, and I did it in different colors here, just so you could see an attention getter. Probably you were taught when you were in your younger years in school, or if you've recently graduated from school, you've probably been taught that is called a hook. That is otherwise known as the attention getter. You want to state the problem that you're discussing. You want to have bridge or transition sentences, and your thesis statement is almost always at the end. Now, when you get into more advanced writing, I tell my students it's okay to state your thesis statements from the very beginning sentence. But since we are in a developmental class, I want you to do what's known as an inverted thesis, and at the end of your first paragraph. So some common errors that I see in a thesis statement is assuming the implied focus of an introduction is enough. Also including a thesis that does not make a claim, presenting a thesis that is too broad or too narrow, and neglecting to revise the thesis umbrella as the project unfolds. So I'm also going to upload, or by the time you watch this video will be uploaded, the umbrella to help you begin to develop your essay. You won't actually do that until next week. It will be one of the assignments. So I will put it in there, but you won't actually have to do it until next week. And you just think of it as your topic would go here. I'm using my mouse, hopefully you can see it in the umbrella. And then you'll have underneath the umbrella, you will have different subtopics and then supporting details underneath the umbrella, kind of like an umbrella catches the rain, and then it pours out from the outsides of the umbrella. So ways to start your introduction. This equation is one to remember. You need a catchy first line, inspiration, plus your thesis and equals your introduction. So I decided to talk about gnomes because I think gnomes are funny and funny looking. So you want to provide some interesting background about the topic in the form of a general statement. I'm going to get rid of this immediately. Because you don't need that. Definitely, I do not want you to use questions in your writing in any way, shape, or form. In academic writing, we do not use questions. So you want to provide some interesting information. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. See, I'm editing as I go. And sometimes that is pretty common. So state a surprising fact or a puzzling statement, or you can start with a short story. Sometimes that gets your audience's attention. As you can see, I did eliminate the whole question thing because I don't agree, and it is not proper practice to use questions in academic writing. But some examples for a catchy first line and your inspiration plus your thesis equals your introduction. So like I said, I use gnomes. Some examples are, today's gnome owners become tomorrow's leaders. I think that's interesting. Or in 1693, the first gnome was brought to America. Or the third one, little Susie looked out her window only to see her precious gnome Willard was being stolen. Again, those are different ways to utilize it. I do want you to avoid using personal pronouns, but it certainly is a way to start your introduction and go from there. Some additional ways to start your introduction. You could state a common misconception. You'll be writing an argumentative issue, or essay. So typically you would describe a problem, a social issue, something along those lines. Again, I'm still going to talk about gnomes. And you can demonstrate how the topic is related to the reader's experience. So examples of these are, people don't learn bad habits from gnomes. Of course not. They are statues. Everyone knows what a problem gnome napping has become in society. I'm going to eliminate the personal pronoun as I am here, because remember, this is real-time writing. Give an analogy. Gnomes are just like children. Or show how the topic is related to the reader's experience. Most people know how difficult it is to take care of gnomes. As you can tell, I kind of have a bit of a sneezy. So your introduction makes a bridge to connect the attention-getting sentence to your thesis statement. A common way to make the bridge is to explain why the topic is important. It's often a few sentences long. However, the one thing you don't want to do is say, the reason why I'm writing this is, or I'm going to tell you about this today because. You want to keep yourself out of it. A common phrase that I use in my in-person classes is, while I love you and adore you, nobody cares what you think. It's academic writing. In academic writing, they want you to discuss how you feel without putting yourself into it. And that takes a lot of practice. So don't think you're going to immediately get it overnight. You'll conclude your introductory paragraph with the most important idea of the essay, which is your thesis statement. So your thesis statement functions to announce the topic to the reader. It also reflects a judgment about the topic and provides the reader with a blueprint of what is to come. So here's an example of an introduction. Okay, so you'll see again here, I have it color-coded. This does not always mean your sentence intro is 4 sentences long, but it does have 4 parts. It has the attention getter, the problem is stated, there's the bridge or transition sentences, and then your thesis statement. So here we go, gnome phobia in America. In 2004, the Gnome Liberation Front was created. This group of people believes that gnomes should be free, not prisoners of their owner's garden. The GLF has now begun gnome napping, the act of stealing gnomes and freeing them in the wilderness. However, the law is unwilling to do anything. Many police state that the gnomes are not a serious enough offense to deal with, and that they have larger crimes to deal with. This is not acceptable. The law should be taking the gnome napping more seriously because people are committing a crime. Gnome napping is stealing personal property and is illegal, morally wrong, and disrespectful. So again, your thesis statement is in purple. Purple is my favorite color, so I did save it for the last sentence. And this thesis statement in particular is important because that's what my body paragraphs are going to be made of. So we're going to talk in the first body paragraph about how gnome napping is illegal because it is stealing personal property. The second one is going to be about how gnome napping is morally wrong. And the third one is going to be about how it is disrespectful. Okay, so your body paragraphs, again, it's a set of paragraphs that develop the idea expressed in the thesis statement. And like I said, I'll go into this further next week. I just wanted you to have the equation so that you were aware. You want to make a list of the ideas that support your thesis statement. Each main idea then becomes the topic sentence for a body paragraph, and then you'll arrange the main ideas in logical order. So time and place and importance. And then you want to plan out each body paragraph by listing major details that support the idea as we go into next week. And I put the umbrella organizer on your assignments. That will help you so much in being able to plan your essay. You want to order the details within each paragraph in a logical way, and each body paragraph needs to end with a concluding sentence. So I tell students all the time, I used to think, oh my goodness, it is so not important to outline papers. You just get in and you immediately will start composing and start writing your essay, but that's not always the case. So you want to make sure that you outline it, because outlining will help prevent errors in your essay writing. So here's an example outline. Your thesis statement is at the top. Gnome napping is stealing personal property and is illegal, morally wrong, and disrespectful. So your topic sentence would be gnome napping is stealing someone's personal property and stealing is illegal. And then you would put your 3 main points here. Your second body paragraph, it is morally wrong to take anyone's property, whether it is a gnome or a car. Body points 1, 2, 3 here. And then your topic sentence for your third body paragraph is the GLF is incredibly disrespectful because they take items that don't belong to them. See, even I'm seeing errors. And then your 3 main points. So in your writing stage, after planning and arranging your main ideas and major details, then you'll begin to write your body paragraphs. The number of paragraphs depends on the topic's complexity, inclusiveness, and your purpose for writing. Usually a short essay will contain 3 to 5 body paragraphs plus an introduction and conclusion. You have to use signal words to make smooth transitions between sentences and paragraphs, and I will upload a handout with signal words to help you, and transition words to help you as you begin to enter into the writing stage. Signal transition words are, for example, for instance, to illustrate. Those are typically used in an exemplification and illustration essay. If you're doing an essay on organization or chronological order, the 6 steps are next, finally, first, secondly, and third. Additional points, you would use words like furthermore, in addition, also, and moreover. If you have opposing ideas, which you will because you're going to be writing an argumentative essay, you want to use words like on the other hand, in contrast, although, and however. And then similar ideas would be likewise, similarly, or in comparison. So signal and transition words are actually quite important when you're writing an essay. If you want to use things for exceptions, you would use words like however, nevertheless, but, yet, and still. All of this is in your textbook. If you want to use words for emphasis, above all, finally, and more importantly. If you want to use them for understanding, in other words, in essence, or briefly. For summarizing, I hate these 2 words, in conclusion, to sum up, for these reasons. In a nutshell, it's kind of cliche, so I'm going to change that right now to ultimately, because that's important. And then for exams, remember this is important. This could be on the test. So a conclusion for your essay, an equation to remember would be your thesis plus wisdom and a catchy last line equals the conclusion. You want to leave your reader thinking about the topic and leave an impression on them. One of the things I tell students all the time, when you're writing essays, it's very important that you don't let someone else have the last word. You don't want to give new information in your conclusion. You want to recap your ideas, and it needs to connect logically to the body of the essay. You can restate your thesis statement, but you have to use different words. And you want to have your reader do something after reading. An example, and that's also commonly called a call to action. Um, write to your local senator about the problem. It really depends on what you're talking about. So that's just sort of a brief overview of writing the essay equation on basics, very, very basics. As we go into next week and you see the argument assignment essay examples and you'll see the assignment sheet, I will go more into depth on that video. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment while I pull up the next PowerPoint, which is purpose, voice, and audience. And that is also extremely important when you're writing. It's a very short PowerPoint, so it won't take very long at all. Let me share my screen here. Share screen. There we go. So purpose, voice, and audience in writing is extremely important because you have to have an academic purpose. It's the reason why you're writing. So in this case, I actually have, given you, well, I will give you an argument essay assignment. If you want to look ahead and begin to start thinking about topics, I do have a list of topics that some people can't come up with topics. So I made a list to help them come up with topics. But you have to have a reason for writing. In this case, you are an emerging and developing writer, so I'm asking you to write an argumentative essay first, but you have to know the basics of argument, which will be next week's video. However, I did want to talk to you about purpose, voice, and audience. So again, purpose is the reason why you're writing. You can write a grocery list in order to remember what you need to buy. You can write a lab report in order to carefully describe a chemistry experiment. Those of you who are planning on going into nursing or in the healthcare field, you'll be writing lab reports. You may write an argumentative essay in order to persuade someone to change the parking rules on campus. You may write a letter to a friend to express your excitement about their new job. You've already written complaint letters. But you have to select the form for your writing. It's one of your choices that helps you achieve your purpose. You also have choices about style, organization, kinds of evidence that help you achieve the purpose. In this case, I would recommend always looking at the rubric as well while you're writing, so that you are aware of what I'm looking for as your instructor. Focusing on your purpose as you begin writing helps you know what form to choose, how to focus and organize your writing, what kinds of evidence to cite, how formal or informal your style should be, and how much you should write. So next week, as we go into the argument essay, I'm also going to do a short lesson on how to cite sources and how to look for sources in arguments. So next week's video might be a little bit longer than this week's, but just to give you kind of an overview. Academic voice is important because it means to meet the writing expectations of academic writing. And this is something that I try to stress to all my students. You have to include 3 central components in order for it to be academic writing. You need declarative statements, you have to avoid casual language, and you have to have an authoritative tone. You also must always, always, always write in present tense, always write in third person, unless it is a narrative essay. If it is a narrative essay, then it can be first person point of view. But most of the time, narrative essays are not common in academic writing. So for the most part, you'll always write in third person and you'll always write in present tense. Your audience, that's also extremely important. It's a group of readers who read a particular piece of writing. So as a writer, you need to anticipate the needs or expectations of your audience in order to convey information or argue for a particular claim. So your audience could be your instructor, classmates, the president of an organization, the staff of a management company, or any number of possibilities. But you have to know your audience before you start writing. In this case, I am your audience. I will be your audience as you begin to develop your essay. So it's extremely, extremely important that you keep that academic purpose and that academic voice as you begin writing. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And again, that's just a very short PowerPoint here. And I'm going to share a couple of different things here from Brightspace, just so you have a little bit of an idea. You see here, I've got the weekly assignments listed. This video will be listed above that. Your essay equation, your purpose, voice, and audience in writing. The PowerPoint I went over on fragments, and this is a handout of fragment rules. This handout is types of arguments, and just so you can kind of see what kind of arguments there are. I'm waiting for it to download because I don't know why everything is really slow today. But it's really, really important. So like, for example, if you're doing a definition, you're going to argue that something fits or does not fit the definition. You would start with a research question, typically when you're doing an argumentative essay. Is spanking child abuse? Should offensive speech be banned on campuses? Is cheerleading a sport? Do we need to define fake news? Or should books be banned? Things like that. Keep in mind your argument depends on the meaning of key terms or concepts. You have to provide your reader with clear terminology, and keep in mind that definitions change based on cultures and time periods. There's cause and effect. And this is where you will identify the causes of an event or situation and take a stand on what caused it. You can also focus on the effects, taking a position on what the likely outcome is, has been, or will be. So this is a big one. Is autism caused by childhood vaccines? Are humans responsible for climate change? Is fast food making Americans fat? Are bicycle lanes safer for cyclists? Then you have evaluation, where you'll take a position based on a value judgment about something or someone. So again, like I said, you'll start with the research question, and then you will begin to move forward from there. Then you have ethical, and you can view this chart on your own. I just sort of want to go over them with you. And then you have proposal. That's where you outline a specific problem and then propose a solution. I will tell you, you will be writing a proposal in this course as we get closer to the end. So it is very important that you have demonstrated the ability to argue effectively. So those are just different types of arguments. I put that in there so that you would be able to sort of view that. This is the article I'm having you read this week. It's an article by Joseph Perkins, and it's called Expose the Myths. It's a short article, not very long. But once you read it, I'm asking you to respond to 100 and 150 words on the discussion board. What is your opinion of the suggestion that Joseph Perkins gives? I'm not going to go over that, but he suggests that military bases be turned into housing for the poor, or what other solutions would you propose? It is a practice in formal academic writing, so avoid using personal pronouns in your response. And if you use outside sources, cite them in MLA format and list a works cited at the bottom of your response. It's important, especially with the paragraphs, that you do them in MLA format. Because that's part of the rubric. That's part of what I grade. I also grade on looking for correct grammar and sentence structure, run-on sentences, fragments, and things like that of that nature, and spelling. So please make sure you proofread carefully and that it is double spaced, and that you follow the MLA format. If you are struggling with MLA format, go back to week 1, watch the video. I explain how to do that, and it shouldn't be too difficult to do. The other thing is your discussion topic on homelessness, and that is due on March the 6th. It's available the day this video will post, and it literally is a discussion board. Now, I cannot mark discussion boards for grammar because I'm not able to write directly onto the discussion boards. I can reply, but I really don't want to reply to the discussion boards. I can give you feedback in the little box, and I do that. But in order for you to get full credit for the discussion board, you have to respond to at least one of your classmates in 50 to 100 words. Not one sentence, but it needs to be a little bit more, because this takes place of classroom discussion. So it's very, very important that you do that. Anyway, as we go into this week, I hope that I've explained everything thoroughly. I don't want to overload you, because next week, as we begin the argument writing process, it will be a little bit more to do. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm here, I'm available, and I will be more than happy to assist you. Again, your quizzes will be under the assessments tab. Your assignments are listed under week 5, but you can also look at them under assignments. And then your grammar practice will also be listed under assignments as well. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to assist you in any way, shape, or form. I hope you all have a great week, and thanks so much for watching these videos.